Okay.
Good evening, boys and girls, and boy, do I feel good tonight because I have, you know what, a special person in my heart, a day one employee at Doc Sports. That's right, me and Ferringo were kind of a day one employee when we got brought in together at Doc Sports as handicappers. So he's joining the show today as we're going to have different handicappers every Wednesday. Ferringo will be here, I think, next Wednesday as well, if I'm not mistaken. So it'd be a fun time. We're going to be talking NFL draft. We're going to talk about some playoffs. You guys want to talk about anything else? Put it in the chat. It should be a great show. Good evening, Robert.
How we doing, man?
I'm doing well. It's a busy week, but I can't wait for the NFL draft to be over with. I am so over the most overrated, hyped TV show events. I rather watch LeBron James pick another decision than watch NFL draft, mock draft TV shows or whatever.
It's really unbelievable, not only how much it gets picked apart, but the amount of groupthink involved in it. And it's really interesting. And really, I'm really curious to see how much of the noise from fans, analysts, media actually infiltrates those draft rooms. Okay. Because I got to tell you, I was thinking about this today. Like, Drake May should not be a top 15 pick. Okay. The idea of JJ McCarthy as like a first round draft pick in the NFL draft to me is ludicrous, right? Yet he could go in the top 5 just because all you've heard for months and months and months is quarterbacks. Got to get quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are so valuable. Got to get those quarterbacks in the first round so you have that 5th year option. But then you look back over the last 15 or 20 years, if the NFL has proven anything, it's that they are absolutely terrible at identifying and developing quarterback talent. So it's going to be a mess, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, total quarterbacks over 4.5. There's value if you can get it under $3. Bet the over 4.5. I think you can bet that up all the way up to minus 350. I think there's value. Sandeep, welcome back into the show. Sandeep Ferringo, he's like a day oneer. He's been here almost every show. So Sandeep, nothing but love for you. I'm not trusting the Blue Jays KC and the under, especially KC's offense. I think I had the under a couple of days ago. That was an easy cash. I was hoping to get 9 so I could maybe bet the under again, but I do not like the over in a Blue Jays Kansas City game unless Ferringo has something different.
No, I'm on the under in this game as well. We're not there yet, but usually right around mid-May, one good thing to look for, like a good trend, a good little system to betting MLB, is if you have two teams whose records are above 500 or are playoff caliber teams, and they meet in a series, especially if they're non-divisional rivals, you look to chase the under. That means one of the 3 games will go under. This has been a generally low-scoring series so far. I really like the pitcher that the Jays have on the mound today. This is a kid that I'm definitely very interested in. Yariel Rodriguez throws hard, got some good stuff. The wind is blowing in Kansas City. That also is an influence. And the umpire is I think he's calling strikes at like a 64.5% clip. So it has a little bit bigger zone. That number is 9 when I got the under on it earlier this morning. I'm not sure if it's come down to 8.5. But no, so you're seeing that a little bit of sharp money is coming in on that under. So I'm sticking with my original bet, and I like a little bit of a lower scoring game.
Billy PK in the chat room, welcome to the show. Can either your hosts give some pointers on how to evaluate over/under totals, like a checklist, how you approach? First of all, what sport you talking about? Because it's factors on different sports from baseball to NBA to hockey to football. So Philly, if you can specify what sport you're talking and why you're typing that in. I'll throw a quick free play out here. We're going to go to NHL playoffs. Dallas and Vegas. Vegas steals game 1 in Dallas and American Airlines. If Dallas wants to win this one, even up the series, they have to play some defense. That's why I like the under at 6 minus 120. I think the under is a good play on this one. I think Dallas evens up this series. So I like the 6 minus 120 as my free play for NHL hockey. And Philly PK wants to know about baseball totals. You have any approaches on that for him?
Yeah, I'm a big totals players. I have some systems that are a little bit proprietary, so I'm not going to give you all of my full checklist, but I can give you some basics, okay? For me, I always start with the assumption that every game is going under. For me, it's more look for reasons to bet the over, okay? Some of those are pitchers' form in the last 3 or 5 starts and their last game. If you have a bad pitcher, like let's say a Kyle Gibson, okay, a guy who's consistently had that career ERA in the mid to high 4s, and he goes out and throws a 7 innings of 3-hit ball and gives up 1 run in a start, the next game I'm looking to bet against him. Now, if you're betting under, the converse is also true, right? If you have a guy like Dylan Cease or like a top 20, top 40 pitcher that goes out and has a bad start, you look to bet them under the next game. So regression with starting pitchers is a good starting point for me. Weather in baseball. Not a lot of people take the time to look up the weather reports, but it's very, very easy. It takes 5 minutes every morning. You can tell places where the wind is blowing out, like Chicago, or where the wind is blowing in. That will have a dramatic effect on things. Another stat I like to look for is you go back. This takes a little bit more time, but you go back and see how teams are hitting with runners in scoring position for their last 5 or 10 games. You get some stretches during the season where teams will go, 1 for 10, 2 for 8, 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position in a series. Those are the guys that you look at. Okay, they're hitting the ball, they're putting runners on base, they're just not getting those clutch hits. You kind of expect them to break out. So that's another thing that you look for. And finally, the umpires. You got to know your umpires. Who's got a big zone, who's got a tight zone, and who doesn't really factor in when it comes to those types of things. So those are just a few of the many pieces that I look at when I'm looking at my totals.
Billy, I agree with him on weather. I'm a big weather guy, especially the guy that loves to watch baseball at Wrigley Field. I always want to know where the weather is blowing in or out. And I'm huge on bullpen usage. If I'm looking at an overplay, I'm looking to see what happened the last game, how many pitchers are used in the bullpen. Because now starters are going 4 or 5 innings. Half of these starters are not even eligible for wins or losses. That's how shorters are going. So I'm a big bullpen guy. I look at back and see how the bullpen is usage and stuff like that. So I look at those. But Ferringo is dead on a lot of his pointers.
One key stat to remember, okay? A lot of sports betting is regression analysis, all right? Things always regress to the means. If teams are scoring a lot of runs on not many hits, you got to expect that they're going to come back to earth and vice versa. Key stat to remember when betting MLB totals is 2.7, okay? Walks plus hits plus errors, that's base runners, all right? The average number of runs per base runner in MLB betting is about 2.7. All right. What that means is that if you have 2 teams that combine for, say, 36 base runners, runs plus hits plus errors, but they only scored 8 runs in a game, well, that was kind of a bad beat. They should have had closer to 12 or 13 runs in that game. So if you watch the box scores, if you analyze the box scores on a day-to-day basis, and you keep that number in mind, and if you see some teams that, oh my God, this team only had 6 hits and 3 walks, yet they scored 7 runs somehow, that's a statistical anomaly. You got to expect that to come back. So maybe you're looking to bet them under the next day. 2.7 base runners per run is MLB standard over the last 30 years. So that's a good key pro stat for you.
Ricardo wants to know if all these NBA under thoughts on today's NBA totals. You know what? When this Boston Miami game came out at 14, first of all, it opened up at 15. A couple books had left it at 15 and quickly got bet to 14 and a half. Total opened up at 207. Now it's about 205 and a half. I put a big X on it. I didn't want nothing to do with it. I didn't even look at any player prop bets because this is, I don't think it's going to be an interesting game. But New Orleans OKC is something different. I can see if there's a game that goes over on tonight's card, it could be that one. I think OKC will play better at home. They look very scared and skittish in game 1. SGA started off ice cold and then he got a little bit hot in the second half. I think the Pelicans, knowing that they let one get away, I think Brandon Ingram could have an interesting game. Look for Herb Jones to also produce some points. If there's one game that's going over, I didn't bet it, but if there's one game that's going over in the NBA today, I can see the Pelicans OKC.
Ricardo, thank you for asking this question, actually, because I was giving this a lot of thought earlier today, just kind of on my own. The under is 9-5 in the 14 playoff games so far. And it's really the culmination of a lot of trends, right? First, there's just the basics, which we're in the playoffs. Playoff basketball, one of the big keys of betting in the regular season, as Raphael knows, is motivation, right? Which teams are coming to play on a Tuesday night in Utah, right? You have to factor that into your handicapping. Well, one of the great things about playoff NBA betting is you don't have to worry about that. Everybody's coming to play every night. You don't have to worry about as many motivational angles as you do. And what does motivation mean to an NBA player? It means playing defense. These guys are going to get down and get after it for a full 48 minutes. So, of course, the defensive intensity is going to pick up. Not only that, but the pressure on the offenses. These guys feel it. They know that these are big games and big shots, and you can't pretend that that doesn't factor into their approach. A lot of playoff sports and all sports is about not making mistakes rather than being reckless, full throttle, going full speed ahead. So a little bit of scoring regression and lower scoring games is to be expected. Teams are playing harder defense and things tighten up, especially at the end of quarters and at the end of the games. But the other thing that I was thinking of, next thought also with playoff betting is that what does the public want to bet? The public always wants to bet the over, right, Raphael? Like that's in their DNA. They bet what they want to happen. They want to watch a shootout rather than what they think is going to happen. And they always overestimate a little bit of the talent on the court. So you got the public that wants to bet the over. You have these teams that are ramping up their playoff intensity. But one of the really interesting trends for anyone that bet the NBA in the second half of the season, this under trend has been phenomenal over the last 2 or 3 months. Back in December, I remember texting some people
like been going under.
Right. At a ridiculous rate over the last 2 months. Like I remember texting some people, like the totals were out of control in December and early January. You were seeing totals in the 240s, totals consistently at like 228, 231. I'm talking half the totals, right? So, and teams were beating them. Teams were going over. There was a reason for that. Like the scoring level at the NBA early in the season was so high, but then you've slowly saw like that regression that I talked about coming back to earth. And so the under has been crushing it in NBA betting for the last 2 months. So I think a little bit of what we're seeing in the playoffs is just a continuation of what has been the trend post All-Star break.
Philly nailed it. Playoff Jimmy's always playing great defense. Too bad playoff Jimmy is on the couch watching games with myself. Now these games, that's why Miami will probably get the gentleman sweep in that series. Jeff Carwell, do you have any guidelines for live betting? I have some great guidelines for live betting. I do a lot live betting in baseball and playoff sports. I don't do that much during the season, but it's all about timing. That's my big thing. I hate people who live bet are not watching the game. I don't understand how people are not betting on games, live betting when they're not watching the games. You can see tempo. You can see who's in foul trouble. You can see how the refs are calling it. There's so many factors. So if you're watching the game, it's so much getting better where you can get a number at -4. In 2 seconds, it's now -2. So it's all about timing. So be very, very cautious when you're doing live betting. And don't bet if you're saying if you have the Pelicans -6 and it goes down and now they're -14 because they're up early and stuff like that. Don't ruin your original bet. Try to add on to your original bet. I think that's what people mostly do, and I think that's how a lot of people lose money or lose all their bets, including the first one they did before live betting even starts.
I have a little bit of it. I agree with pretty much everything that Raphael said, except for the last part. I like to try and go after middles, but you made a great point. Don't ruin your bet.
Middles, yes.
Don't ruin your bet, right? Like if you have $400 on the Pelicans in this bet, right? Don't bet $400 on OKC and shoot for that super middle. Okay, but you got $400 on the Pelicans. Maybe drop $100 and go for that middle. So that if you lose, that bet on the Thunder, that hedge bet, if you will, you're still showing a profit. Okay, you're still being rewarded for being right on that initial bet. And I love live betting the NBA and college basketball. Probably my two favorite sports because of that. Because you see so many wild swings back and forth, and the books. I don't feel like the algorithms that they use for live betting for basketball are as sharp as they are in some other sports, and it opens up a lot of wild middling opportunities. But Raphael's first point was the best point. Don't live bet a game that you're not watching for all of those reasons. When you're watching the game, you have a feel for it. You have an understanding. You have an instinct, especially like Raphael and I, like when you've watched the millions of games that we've watched, you can just tell. You just have that instinct, Raphael, right? Like you're just like, okay, this team's up 12, but that team's about to go on a run. The crowd's going to get into it. Like they're getting good shots, but they're not making them. You just have a little bit better feel when you're actually watching the action.
Yeah, a perfect example. I had the Pelicans. I think I had the Pelicans game over in game one. And when the game started, it was ice cold, very hesitant for both teams, clinking all over the place. The first half was 17-17. I was live betting the under. I think I had, at the end of the game, I think I had 6 tickets on the under. And I actually made more money on the live betting under than I did my first bet. Because again, I saw the feel of the game. I saw the way the game was being played. The horrible shooting at the Pelicans, the Stars were doing. CJ and Ingram both had bad games. So I agree. You definitely have to watch that game, a game before you do live betting.
Well, the Lakers Nuggets the other night
Yeah.
too, right? Like I'm going to get the exact number wrong, but I want to say the Nuggets have beaten the Lakers 10 straight times. It's either 9 or 10 straight times. And I want to say 7 of those wins, those outright wins, the Lakers had double-digit leads at some point in the game. So when the Lakers were up 15 at halftime in that game, or 14, whatever it was, going into the third quarter, a buddy of mine texted me. He was like, "Activate Nuggets in-game bet." I was like, "Yeah, I mean, absolutely. This is the time." Like, would you be surprised if the Nuggets overcame another double-digit lead at home to come back and win? And that was an easy cash.
You have any free plays out there for the viewers really quick? Because I actually have a special gift for the viewers and people who are going to watch this throughout the rest of the evening.
Yeah, this one isn't very tricky, but take Atlanta -1.5 tonight against Miami. That game starts in about an hour. I released a big futures play against Miami at the beginning of the MLB season. Regression, right? Regression analysis. You could just tell by everything that Miami did last year, it was completely unsustainable coming into this season. So this was a team that I've been looking to bet against heavy early on in the year, and they've been terrible. I think they're 6-19. Let's just keep hammering away against Miami, number one. Atlanta is one of the best teams in baseball. Should be no surprise to anyone. But there's another really interesting factor about what's going on with the Braves right now. They lose Spencer Strider, their number 1 stud guy, out for the year a couple weeks ago. What we've been seeing is kind of this jostling and these other pitchers who are stepping up their game, right? Like everybody wants to step up their game just that little bit more to show that, we're going to be all right. We're going to be okay without him. You don't have to go get another arm and bump me out of the rotation. And Ronaldo Lopez is kind of the perfect example. He's pitched a little over his head this year, but the guy has been phenomenal. And this is another one of those starts where I just get the sense, I just get that kind of instinct that he wants to go out and show the home crowd again that, like, this is real. I'm actually a very good pitcher. I was a good acquisition, and we're going to be all right without Spencer Strider. So, the Braves have dominated Miami. They beat him again, I think 5-0 yesterday. Cash with the run line yesterday. Let's just keep going to the well till the well is dry.
Yeah, perfect example. It's funny. I do a show in the morning for another company, and they're all huge Atlanta Braves fans. So I can't believe you said that, because I had to hear Atlanta Braves fans all morning, and now I have to hear it from you. But the boss is watching.
God, I hate the Braves.
The boss is watching, Robert. He just sent me this text for 25% off any of our packages, myself and yours, using promo code RERF25. That's right. You get 25% off all Ferringo's packages and all myself packages. And Ferringo has some great stuff, baseball going on right now. What else? You're not doing soccer right now, are you?
Not yet. I will be. For those that have used my soccer in the past, I will be. We have the Copa America, the Euro. We have some big time soccer tournaments this summer that I'm super duper excited about. So, will be. So I will be having a special summer soccer special there. But right now, honestly, NBA playoffs, MLB, I'm full in on. I'm right there with the NHL. I've been very, very selective with that. And until midnight tonight, anybody that wants them can get my NFL draft picks. I loaded up on the draft. There's a couple of players and a couple of numbers that I think are really soft for tomorrow, and I'm looking to take advantage of that. And again, that was RERF25. That's Rafael Esparza, RERF, Robert Ferringo, 25. And let Wade know next time my name comes first, huh? How about RFRE?
I just got the text. I didn't plan. I just got the text. I
Roof.
do not have any NFL plays because I didn't feel like releasing NFL plays if I can't bet on myself in these sports books because the sports books won't let me bet. But it's interesting. I want to give a really quick tip about the NFL draft. The NFL draft is the NFL Customer Appreciation Day. The sports books have never won an NFL draft since I can remember. That's why the limits are low. I hate people on social media on Friday morning say, "I crushed the books on my NFL draft. I crushed the book." First of all, the max bets are anywhere between $200 to $300. Maybe you can get a $500 bet on an NFL draft, and that's maybe get one. So yes, I'm not the biggest NFL draft. I look for more flops than I do look for successes. So I'm not sold on anybody in this draft. So I am not releasing any NFL drafts. But Ferringo is, and I can guarantee you he will bruise the books, not crush the books, bruise the books, because no one really crushes the books. The lights are always on in Vegas.
Well, I got a free play for the NFL draft for those guys that are watching right now, and that's
Let's hear it.
Defensive players drafted in the first round take over 10.5. Okay, and this leads into my whole theory. Anybody that's thinking about betting on the draft tomorrow, do not listen to anyone. Don't listen to anyone. Don't listen to the mock drafts. Don't listen to the bobbleheads talking online. Okay, like a lot of this is smokescreen. Like the draft never goes the way people think it's going to. Like this is, again, it's all about groupthink and herd mentality. You don't want to get caught up with that. Okay, in the last 10 years, the fewest number of defensive players taken in the first round of an NFL draft was 14. The 15-year average of defensive players taken in the first round of the NFL draft is 16.2. The number out there right now is 10.5. This whole idea that there's going to be 6 quarterbacks and 8 wide receivers and 10 offensive linemen. I was listening to some idiot yesterday talking about, he was like, I think there's going to be 24 or 25 offensive players drafted in the first round. That is ridiculous. The idea that there's only going to be 7 defensive players, like that's insanity. These teams at the back end of the first round are smart enough to know, you know what? Maybe I don't want the 9th rated offensive guard with my first round pick. Instead, I'm going to get the top linebacker or the top safety or the 3rd rated corner. So like all this talk about how there's only going to be defense or offensive players drafted in the first round, it's ridiculous. Like over 10.5. It's something that's never happened. There's never been fewer than 11 defensive players drafted in the history of the NFL draft since the expansion. So you're betting against something that has never happened before. So that's my tip.
Maybe the Tulip wants to know how I feel about the Yankees. You want to know how I feel about the Yankees? F the Yankees, because I had them on a run 9 yesterday and they went 4-3. So I am until they can show me that the Yankees are the Yankees that we thought they were going to be. I'm not touching them right now. I'm not laying, was it minus 235 around there? I'm not laying them on the run line because I'm not sold on their pitching, especially their relievers. I'm not sold on them. It's pretty sad when I'm watching Yankee highlights and they're showing Anthony Rizzo home runs, and that's how they're doing it. So do I think they're going to win? Probably, but I ain't touching. I'm not laying that wood, and I'm not laying them on the run line until they can show me something. That's how I feel about Timmy on the Yankees on that one. I'm going to throw out an NFL free draft pick for you guys, and mine's is simple. Total Big Ten players drafted in the first round. Give me the over 5.5 Big Ten players. You're getting a nice money minus 125. It actually came down, and I don't understand why. Because here's the key guy that's going to maybe probably catch my ticket. Chop Robinson from Penn State. I like his prop bet 26.5 over plus 160. He's either going to go to the 27th pick to Arizona or the 28th pick to Seattle, probably. Chop Anderson is the reason why I will probably cash that ticket from Penn State. I'm just laying a nice juice price on this at minus 125. I'm hoping it continues to drop. I saw DraftKings ahead at minus 123 when I logged on earlier. So that means it's probably dropping. So that's one I'm looking at for Big Ten players under.
Hey, to go back to Timmy for a second about how I feel about the Yankees. I'm from New York originally. Dan brother, big time Yankees fans. Unfortunately, I didn't do the smart thing and just become a Yankees fan with them. I'm a Mets fan, and I hate it, like a self-loathing Mets fan. But I follow the Yankees very closely. So it's kind of a family thing. Historically, anyone that's followed the Yankees will tell you April's their worst month. They are notoriously a slow starting team. So the fact that they have come out of the gates as successfully as they have this year, I think bodes very well for them. Their pitching has been much better than I have expected. And the fact that they have been able to win these games, get off to this hot start with Stanton and Judge doing basically nothing. I think both of those guys are hitting right around the Mendoza line right now. They've been terrible right now. They're going to heat up. They're not going to be this bad all season. So the fact that they've come out as strong as they have, they're definitely a team that I'm going to keep an eye on. The problem is, like Raphael said, is that the Yankees are right up there with the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Duke Blue Devils, Alabama Crimson Tide. Like, these are just some of the most overinflated teams in all of sports betting. So you're never going to get the proper value on the Yankees. But I got to tell you, I like how they've started this season. I think the arrow's pointing up.
Yeah, it should be interesting. We got about we have about less than 5 minutes left. I'm gonna read out my free plays. I only had two today. We're gonna throw out the Vegas Dallas under 6. Dallas needs this win. They lost home ice as the Golden Knights took game one. If Dallas wants to win, they need to keep the puck out of the net. They've been crushing unders all season long lately, and then especially at home. And then they let the Golden Knights get one early, and it just fell off the rails. So I like the under at 6. And then total Big Ten players drafted in the over 5.5. Was it minus 125 on the juice? Like I said, shop around. Like I said, I logged on to DraftKings earlier. It was minus 123. So make sure you get the best number out there. So those are my two free plays for you.
I have the Braves minus 1.5, minus 120, just going back to the well with them and betting against Miami. I also have total number of defensive players drafted in the first round tomorrow night, over 10.5. And just to one up Esparza, just because that's what I do, I'm going to give you a third free play. I actually kind of like the over in that OKC New Orleans game tonight. These are two top 10 3-point shooting teams throughout the regular season. They combined to go, I believe, 21 for 72 in game one from 3-point range. They were getting the shots. They just weren't making the shots. Oklahoma City averaged 120 points per game during the regular season. I don't think they're gonna match that, but I'm just expecting this game to be played at a little more of an open pace. I'm expecting to see more of the Thunder team that was the number one seed in the West. They earned that, right? They're 34-9 at home. They jump on teams at home. I think they're going to threaten and be right around 115 points tonight. That number is around 211.5, 212. So as long as the Pelicans don't completely mail it in, I think the over hits in this one. And we just see a little bit more free-flowing game tonight. Kind of like we saw the difference between Indiana and Milwaukee, game 1 to game 2. Not that I'm still pissed off about that, because I had the over in game 1 and they both laid an egg. And then I could tell 2 minutes into the game last night that last night's game was going over the Citadel. But I'm just expecting, from a pace perspective and from a shot making perspective, that this second Thunders game is going to be higher scoring than that first one.
Trucking every day. I have no idea what VIP sports betting in Vegas is, but please let me know what that is. I don't. VIP rooms I know, but I don't know if I understand. But VIP sports betting in Vegas, but it should be interesting. This is like another Doc Sports live show. We're gonna be doing these every Wednesday. Hopefully, we'll have 2 handicappers. Some days it'll be just one, but Ferringo's joining me next week. We have some great people on there. Griffin and Nolan from Strike Point Sports is coming up. We got Doug Upstone coming in a couple of weeks from now. So it should be a fantastic crew with some great questions. We had some really good questions over unders. That was a great question you guys threw in there today. But like I said, every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have a Docs live show here at the Docs Live YouTube show. Can't find the draft bets on DraftKings. I'm glad you mentioned that, Philly. Some of these sports books close these really early. I would not be shocked if they closed them already. I thought I saw them earlier today. Yeah, I'm on
They're there.
I see it. Yeah, they're there. They're still there.
They're there. If you open up if you're doing it on your browser, make sure your browser is wide enough on the left, so that on the left-hand navigation, the top is NFL. Click on that, and then all the subheads in the middle for 2024 NFL draft specials, draft team specials, draft pick parlays. So it's in there. Just like I said, sometimes the browser gets too narrow. Don't do it on your phone. DraftKings I don't feel like they're great. You're on the mobile app. That's not the way to do it. Get on your browser, open that up. I think DraftKings mobile app can be really hard to use sometimes when you're looking for specific props and bets and stuff like that. Yeah, no, go on your browser and you'll find it really easily.
Yeah, I totally agree on that one. But again, some of these books, I know Caesars closed their books at midnight. Their NFL draft. So get your plays in now because they won't be open. Some books won't be open tomorrow. I'm offshore. They'll keep theirs open. I think DraftKings last year kept theirs open to an hour before the first selection was out there. But thanks to everyone for joining in. Philly PK, Trucking Every Day. All you guys had some really, really great questions. Again, every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Doc's live YouTube show with some great handicappers. Don't forget to check out all the free plays over at Doc's YouTube channel. Tony George, Scott, Doug Upstone, Griffin, myself. We all do some great videos out there. Nolan from Strike Point. He has some great free play videos out there, so don't forget to check those out. So again, thank you for joining us on the Doc Sports Live show on Wednesday at 6. We'll be back next week. Have a great, great, great Wednesday. Stay safe, and please don't bet what you don't have.
Good luck, everyone.